hosting this. I know we do it every Friday, different topics, not just health, but related to the goodness of the community. So thank you for inviting me. I think we have 35 people, not just because I think they find me interesting, but everybody is at home. So maybe they got nothing better to do, but it is a very important topic. A bit of housekeeping on my part. Number one, Yudmi, can you hear me?
Yes, Jerry, I can hear you really well. It's just that I was muted myself.
Oh, okay.
Hear you well, yes.
But we
Okay,
will
then.
everybody to ensure that there's no interference while you're talking. But what we'll do is we'll collect the questions that people may have, and we'll present it to you after you finish your session. We've now got 30 people registered with us.
Fantastic. I see 37. Okay, we'll save the questions. I'm sure there will be a lot. A little bit of housekeeping. First of all, I'm not a medical doctor. As you know, it's a tongue twister, but I'm a naturopathic nutritionist. I work with a group of clinics in Malaysia, 3 in KL and 1 in Penang. And I'm also the health advisor for other companies. I'm not here to market, not here to sell any product or anything, but basically to share what I know, having been in the field. And also, I'm not here to treat you online because that will be impossible to do. So if you have any pre-existing condition, please do consult your own physician, your own doctor, get his opinion. I'm here to give you more knowledge so that you can check it out yourself, can discuss this with your doctor. Of course, our clinic is in Bangsa itself. Actually, it's called Eternal. We have 4 clinics. I'm also the international health advisor for a company called AXA Global. They specialize in seeds nutrition with the research out of the University of Minnesota in America. And I've done some clinical work with Dr. Professor Carmen out of the University of Romania. And I was just there before this whole thing happened. And we just published a paper over there. And hopefully this paper will be out for the rest of the world. Okay. So that is kind of the disclaimer that I have to say before I start. And since we are topical right now, and today was the right day because the Prime Minister announced an extension. And why was there an extension? Because we still have red zones. We still have areas where there is the danger because this thing grows so fast, so viral, which is why it's called a virus, I suppose. And if you don't control the red zones, then other zones, yellow zones will become red, and then the red will become very bad. But right now, we have tested about 40,000 people, which is not bad. Not as good as South Korea or Singapore. Singapore has tested maybe 6,000 people per million. We have tested about 1,000 over people per million. And we have 4,000 over today tested positive. And the good news, of course, is only 5% makes it to ICU, and we only have a 1.6% fatality of people dying. Okay, and they are mostly old people. Not to say young people cannot get infected, but depends on your underlying health condition. All right. And Malaysia is number 1. I know we are number 1 for a few funny and bad things, but for a change, we are number 1 in the world for the rate of recovery. So we are doing something right. We have a 32.7% cure rate. Now, why is that? Maybe after you hear my talk, you can understand that why that happens for some of us. In fact, there was a joke. A friend told me that it's because of the durian. So anyway, let me proceed. My focus will be on our self-immunity. How do we protect ourselves? Because when you talk about a vaccine, when someone, and that's what everybody is shooting for, it is a form of immunity that is given to you. In the olden days, I still remember when we were traveling and when I had to go to UK for my studies and things like that. We have to get a vaccination and inoculation, and we have to prove that it was done before we were allowed to travel. But in today's world, we don't do that anymore because those diseases like smallpox, polio, and all those things have been eradicated. Which is why there are some people who are pushing for having those certifications to come back, or so-called immunity passport, health certificate, things like that. For a time, we did have that for people coming from certain countries in Africa and things like that. So that tells you the importance of immunization. All right. So what is more important than while we wait for the vaccine? The most important thing for us now is how do we self-immunize ourselves? And is there a way to do it? And tonight, I'm here to show you and explain to you that it can be done. All right. Some of us are more immune, and some of us are less. The 95% of people are going to survive this. You're going to have the 5% who are in bad health or have some bad conditions, or just bad luck, and they will face some fatality. All right. Now, a bit of facts. Are you able to put up the slides? You me?
Jerry, I can. Do I do it now?
Yes, you can go on to the first slide or second slide.
Yeah, just give me a sec. Yeah, let me get that ready.
They don't have to keep looking at my face. Let's try that, because then people can take photos. If they want to remember what I'm talking about, they can always take a snapshot.
Yeah, just a sec. I'm starting. The moment you can see, you let me know, okay, Jerry?
Okay.
Can you see it, Jerry?
No.
Still not yet?
It says Yudmi Ho is presenting, but I don't see the slides.
Okay, let me do one more time.
You need to do share screen, right?
Yep, I've done that. Wait just a sec. Bear with me, friends, because we're using this platform first time. You still can't see it?
No.
If not, okay, let me try.
Oh.
You can see?
Yes, we can see.
You can. Excellent. Tell me what you see. Just a sec, huh? What do you see?
Jazz Up Your Immunity, updated for COVID-19.
Excellent. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Oh.
So,
do I have to do something?
If you can't see it, okay, because the rest of us can see, you tell me the page and I'll turn. Yeah?
Oh, I see it now.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, I think we have been inundated with all the facts on COVID-19 that I don't have to repeat myself. So what I'm going to do is highlight a few things that you may have missed. Okay, for example, we know it's spread, by coughing, sneezing, touching, sharing food, sharing water, things like that. But what makes it more dangerous now? We are talking about micro droplets. Micro droplets in the sense that because it's more tiny, it is going to stay in the air longer, and depending on the wind and the stream of the air, it may infect you at a longer distance and at a longer period of time. So these micro droplets was proven, by some Japanese researchers. Some of you may have seen the WhatsApp video on that. Okay. Now, as far as the airstream, basically, if you're moving behind somebody and he's giving out micro droplets, you may catch it if you are in the airstream. So, in fact, it can go as far as 5-6 meters, not just the 1-2 meters of distancing that you practice. So you have to be extremely careful and wear a mask every time you go out because of micro droplets. Of course, the second issue we all know is surfaces can carry the virus for days. Depending on where the surface is, is it in a cool place, in a hot place? Is it on metal? Is it on the... Anyway, so typically, a more dangerous place will be an enclosed place, obviously, in an elevator, in a room where the air is circulating and you're touching surfaces together, like in an elevator, right? So we have to be very careful. There's a lot of controversy about heat and humidity and whether you're more susceptible. Obviously, the flu affects the people in the temperate places more. Why? Because when it's cold, you tend to close all your doors, you tend to not let fresh air come in, and the droplets and the virus will circulate. And if the humidity is low, there's less barrier, it will travel further. When the humidity is high, which is like our air is very dense due to the high humidity, it will capture the droplets faster. So things like that. So I think we all know that the entry point is through the throat, the nose, even our ears and eyes. Okay, and the moment it enters your lung, that's when problems start happening, and you get the serious cough and the short of breath and things like that. It will target something called the ACE2 receptors, which are the lung cell receptors, and that's where all the problem starts. And if it gets worse, you will need ventilators, oxygen, things like that. If you have, obviously, because of that, if you have diabetes, lung, heart, high blood pressure, diabetes, or asthma, of course you will be at a higher risk. So what are the first symptoms? Obviously, sore throat, dry cough without any phlegm, fever, loss of smell, loss of taste is also included, because taste normally is related to smell. Now, when it comes to fever, I just want to add a point that we are brought up in an age where we don't like any kind of fever, but actually a bit of fever is to kill the virus, right? So normally 36.5 to 37.5 is your normal range. If you can keep it to below 40, 39, you can douse yourself in cold water and bring the fever down naturally, but still let your internal body fight the virus. It's better than quickly taking some paracetamol, and of course now we know we shouldn't take ibuprofen, so stick to paracetamol. But when it gets 39 and above, you should really start taking action. All right. Okay, next slide. So what are the precautions? We all know that we've been told that on TV, everywhere, on WhatsApp. Some are true, some are myth. But of course, we have to avoid non-physical physical contact. And even if you have a distant contact, you got to make it quick. Why? As I mentioned, you have micro droplets, right? So you need to avoid crowds, because when you are in an enclosed space, there will be more viruses. And then you need to have care when touching the tissue. You got to use tissues. You got to carry a tissue with you all the time. Antiseptic wipes is good. You got to wear masks whenever you're out, and you have to wash all the time. No choice. And of course, any sanitizers you use has to contain more than 60% alcohol. Try to cough or sneeze into something disposable. And most importantly, act fast when you feel a bit of scratchy throat, you're having the early symptoms, because that's when you can take action. And of course, today I want to talk about how you should optimize your self-immunity, because 95% of people are going to survive this. 5% will get into ICU, right? And out of that, 1% over will die. So you don't want to be the 1.6%, right? You want to be the 95%. You don't even want to be infected, so you want to be the 90% of people. And actually, that is not hard to do. This is something we should do all the time, not just for coronavirus, COVID-19, but for any kind of diseases, especially infectious or communicable type. Next slide. So what are the difficulty and what are the challenges? You see the two charts. Of course, what the government is trying to do, or every government is trying to do, is when they say flattening the curve, is to take protective measures that is within the capacity of the government or the hospitals to manage. If you have 1,000 bed and you have 10,000 sick people, you know you have a problem, right? Just like you saw in Italy, in Spain, and places like that, right? Now, the second slide shows you how fast you can infect. So, it is very important that we isolate and contact and trace the contact to avoid those big growth in numbers, all right? Now, very important that we need to understand it's not just contracting the virus, it's something called the viral load, right? If you are in a place where you have more virus, like in a hospital environment, in the clinic, so you see there are so many people falling sick in Italy that hundreds of doctors get infected. Why? Because they are facing a big viral load. You are surrounded by viral air, so the load is very high. So why do young people sometimes die? It's because they went to a party, an enclosed place where the viral load was high. I think you can appreciate that if you have quick short contact and you catch a little bit of virus, your immune system can handle it. But if you are constantly exposed for hours, and then your body cannot fight it. I already mentioned the second point, micro droplets, and affecting the slipstream, which is the air that it travels by. And then you have the lifespan of the virus. It can sit in the cool elevator, air conditioned in the hotel. It could stay there for days, and you could be the unlucky next person to touch it, and then you wipe your nose with it. So that's how it spread. The other danger is something called asymptomatic, meaning you could be a carrier and not know it because the virus did not manifest itself, through the normal symptoms. Or you may always have a dry cough, a little bit of cough. You could be a smoker and you have a bit of a dry throat, dry cough. So you don't think it's much of a COVID symptom. So you become a carrier, okay? Or you could be just pre-symptomatic, meaning that it takes 2 days to 7 days for the symptoms to show up for most people. If you are asymptomatic, it may not show up for days or never. Now, we talk about testing. In the world right now, most hospitals are doing the PCR test. It can take from a few hours to a couple of days to get the result. The rapid test is something where it's fast. You can test it in minutes. It looks at the antigen or the antibodies in your blood. The problem with that is it may not show if you have the virus, but if it's too early, it may show a negative. So you keep reading about false negatives and false positives. No test in the world is 100%. So you need to do it twice. Okay? If you have a positive, you got to wait a couple of days and test it again. If you do the rapid test, the same thing. The rapid is a lot cheaper. It's 100 over ringgit.
Hello?
Okay, I don't know why, but my microphone went off.
Okay. Good
So
enough.
yep. Maybe my pen touched it. So the other danger and which China is facing are imported cases. I mean, we have plane loads of students coming home. People, of course, we put them in quarantine. But if they're asymptomatic, then it could be a danger. So China is seeing a wave of imported cases. You cannot help it, but it happened. Okay. Now the most dangerous part is the virus can mutate. So if you come up with a vaccine or even a cure the next few months, it may change its form, that it becomes resistant. This is something we have to face forever, right? So your rate of development of vaccines and drugs has to keep up with the ability to mutate, because as we know it, from the facts that I've seen, obviously it's almost sure that the carrier was originated from bats, because the virus was very similar to the bats. Okay, and then from there, the part that we are not sure is whether it went straight from a bat to a human or from a bat to an intermediary animal and then to a human. But for sure, it originated from the bat, like many viruses. And the other danger which we are seeing now is you could be infectious even after you recover. So there is a proposal that even after recovery, you should wait for a recovery period of up to 14 days again, right? To be very sure that you have no more virus that are waiting to pop up. Because as I told you, no test is 100%. But the biggest part about all this is changing our habits, meaning we cannot be selfish. The big case in Sarawak, somebody came back and she lied about where she was. Okay, and that is the worst part, because the customs officers and all that can only ask you. If you're not truthful about your travel, then you have the high chance to infect other people. In fact, because of this lady's failure to disclose, I think a family of 3 died. So a simple little thing like that, we have to be conscientious of how we can hurt people. And I know there are laws that can force you to be punished if you don't tell the truth about your own status on diseases. And I hope that, people will take this seriously. All right, next slide, please. So what about treatments? What can we do? First of all, currently there's no fully proven cure. We know that. Only supportive. If you go in, they can only treat you and wait until you're serious enough. They put you on ventilators and things like that. But around the world, because this is such a big case, that there are like more than 100 treatment undergoing fast track, right? Of course, the quickest would be to repurpose current drugs that are used for different viruses and different approaches. This will be the fastest because they are current drugs. So just changing the purpose, but it will still take weeks and months to come up with something. Earliest, maybe 2 to 3 months. They are now in stage 2, stage 3 testing. But if you are into new drugs, it will be a long time, right? We have convalescent plasma, which are antibodies that you take from people who are already infected, and it's a possibility. It is a little bit quicker. But if you're talking about a new drug or new vaccine, it's going to be over a year. All right? And this is how long this thing can go on. And of course, none of that's going to be 100%. It will, of course, bring the fatality rate down. There are also, China, of course, is strong in TCM. So they are also looking at combinations of drugs in combination with the TCM approach. All right. So there will be a drug coming out for sure. Now, I will cover a few of those drugs, but whether it works or not, of course, we will see over the next few months. Next slide. So what are the I'll just cover a few of the repurposed drugs that are coming out, and you will hear about this, or you may have read about it. We have a drug that was used for the Ebola virus. We have Caledra, which is HIV, in combination with interferon beta, which is an immunomodulator. Yeah. And then, of course, the one promoted heavily by our President Trump, chloroquine in combination with azithromycin, and actually it works better with zinc. All right, I'll talk a little bit more about zinc later. And it is anti-malaria, so people will think, well, how come malaria it's not a virus? How can it affect? But it does, and the mechanism is a little complicated, but it does work. We got the Actimel Kevera, which is used for arthritis. It is an IL-6 inhibitor. Then in Japan, they're pushing for Avigan, but this one basically is not approved by FDA in America. They are trying to get it approved, but it is something Japan is looking at because they have it. And believe it or not, it's produced by Fuji, the company that makes films. But for some reason, they have this drug. Okay, these are something called repurposed drugs that is existing. This will be the quickest. And they all have areas of possible success, and they need to be tested. So many of these are in late stage testing because they are existing drugs just to be repurposed. Thank you. Next slide. So, as a person who practices naturopathy, of course, preventive is always more important than treatment. If you can prevent yourself from getting ill, and what are the ways? You can have self-immunity, right? You can take physical precautions and hygiene, which is what we are telling everybody to do. You can have vaccines, but vaccines can take at least a year and a half, to come up. And then the treatment itself, you will have drugs coming out. What you want to do is prevent something called a cytokine cascade or a storm, whereby your body gets into a mode where it goes into a cascade, right? And then you get into supportive care, and then you will die if your body don't react to it. So these are treatments, but for me, in cases like this, preventive is always better, and it's not that difficult. It is not that difficult. All right. Next slide. So when I talk about immunity, I rather use the word optimize, because when you have an overactive immune response, it can lead to something called autoimmune, right? You start attacking your own good cells, and you go into something called a cytokine cascade, and you will die because of that. So you want your immunity to be able to respond the right way, in a balanced way, and that will be your right key defense. And that's why I call it an optimized immunity. Next slide. What are our immunity factors? Of course, our lifestyle, meaning, whether you smoke, whether you drink heavily, whether you get enough sleep. That's all lifestyle. Of course, now we're in good lifestyle because we get a lot of sleep, we get a lot of rest, do nothing. Then you got the environment, right? So the environment right now, if you are exposed to a lot of pollution, I'm talking about not just air, but water, even electric pollution. We're talking about EMF, electronic waves, Wi-Fi, things like that. And of course, nutrition. If we don't take care of our body defense depends on proper nutrition so that they can work. If you are lacking in certain minerals, certain vitamins, then you'll be susceptible to viral attack. Okay, next slide. I call these the immune optimizers, whereby we try to fine tune, and of course the list goes on. There's many things that you can read up, how you can take care of yourself in a situation like this.
Hang on, Jerry. Friends, can you see the screen?
I can.
You can see. Okay. Fine. For as long as you can see this. Okay.
All right. When you're not sick yet and you're just trying to stay healthy, then I would propose diets that are bad. They're heavily more on nutrition and a little bit less on enjoyment. Usually it's the other way around, right? We eat because we enjoy something, 80%, and then, okay, oh, by the way, my doctor say I should get something nutritious. Then you leave 20% for nutrition. Actually, it should be the other way around. It should be 80% nutrition and 20% enjoyment. This is what you should do. If you happen to enjoy healthy foods, then you're lucky. But unfortunately, we live in a times where we like our food to be tasty, and we go for our favorite meals, so we lose out on nutrition. We need lots of water at this time, especially, and you add in fresh lemon, it's good. We need enough sleep to avoid stress. Sorry?
Edit for the money.
Sorry, someone talking?
Maybe by mistake. We will take the questions towards the end. Go ahead, Dr. Chin.
Okay, all right. Now, even during this time of lockdown, in a sense, or partial lockdown, I do get my sunlight every day. I do get my exercise every day. I do gargle every day, 3 times a day, AM, PM, especially AM, PM with salt and something called Thieves Oil, which is a blend of, we have people here who are expert. They can tell you what is Thieves Oil. Basically, I use that to gargle because, as you know, the virus and a lot of this kind of virus starts through your nasopharyngeal passages. And please take something called broad spectrum natural antioxidants. We know what are antioxidants. We know, for example, vitamin A, C, E, these are all antioxidants. But you need broad spectrum, something that covers a whole spectrum of the antioxidation process. And the company that I consult with, EXA, we have this product. And that's why we're doing a lot of research on that. It comes from seeds. Black cumin seed oil. If you Google that, it's mentioned in the Quran, it's mentioned in the Bible. It is a very strong antioxidant, as well as providing a lot of protection. So I use that. Of course, you know what is probiotics and prebiotics. These are the friendly bacteria or the good bacteria that provides you with a higher immune system. Very, very important. And the key vitamins and minerals that protect you for this kind of diseases would be vitamin C, D3, which is in a way sunlight, and very, very important is zinc, right? Because even if you look at the approaches to the different treatment, they use zinc. Why? Because when you open up the cells to attack, the zinc is the one that's doing the job, okay? And then, of course, magnesium, and then different kind of tea. Echinacea, you can get it as a tea, you can get it as a drop, you can get it as a pill. It is basically a form of antibiotic from a flower. And of course, curcumin, we know about that. And different kinds of TCM tea that you can get. This is something that you need to do to boost up your body's immune system. That's the best answer. We can wait for the vaccine in a year and a half, right? We can wait for the reformulated or repurposed drugs that are coming up within the next 3 to 6 months. But meanwhile, the best defense that you have is your own body. You want to be part of the 95% that don't get it. And the last thing is you don't want to be part of the 1.6% that's going to die. All right? So the more susceptible you are, the older you are, you need to take care of yourself through some of these simple steps. This is not 100% complete. On any of these topics, I can talk for an hour. So I'm just going to give a summary. If you want to know more, in this group of 39 people now, I know there are some experts here on any of these topics, and I'm sure they can share their time to talk about it. Some of the things you already know, some you may not know. Okay, next slide, please. What are other health optimizers? We have some experts here in the group. I see their name. Of course, you want to clean the air that you're in. You want to sleep with good air. You want to use essential oils, eucalyptus oils. I do that. I use essential oils. And you want to sleep with all your phones away from you, with all Wi-Fi switched off, because that's the time your body is building up its immunity. So you want to get rid of all the things that disrupt your bodily functions, of course, to get a good night's sleep. I see people sleeping with their phone charging next to them and all that because they say, my doctor tells me it's okay. But honestly, it is not okay, right? So you got to get the best rest you can and not expose yourself to a lot of such things. Now, I did not include on the slide because it is a little bit sensitive, but at the clinic, we also do certain things that you can relate to. Basically, we do like vitamin C IV drips. We do cold laser treatment, basically to kill all the virus in your body using cold laser treatment and oxygenation. Because as you know, people who die due to this virus is because the red blood cells are not working anymore and they can't carry the oxygen. And then eventually your body collapses and you die. So this is what this virus is all about. Okay, next slide. People always ask me what should I eat at this current time. Of course, we all know that sugar is bad for you. You want to minimize your carbs and make sure it's good carbs, not the white processed carbs. You know, you can eat a little bit of that, but try to minimize it. You want to increase your intake of colorful vegetables, plant-based proteins. When I say clean meats, mean as far as possible without chemicals. And very important, fresh means enzymes, which your body needs. And good oils, like, good avocado oil or good extra virgin cold pressed oil, things like that. There's a lot of things written about garlic, onion, ginger, turmeric. All these spices all have therapeutic capabilities. You can Google all this. So how do I eat? Well, the rule of thumb is you eat according to your two hands. So 1 pound of protein, 2 fists of fruits and vegetables, and 1 pound of good oils. The problem is we don't get any good oil. We use cooking oil, which we heat up, and it's bad. And we normally eat too much animal protein and too little fruits and vegetables, which gives us the vitamins and the minerals that we need. Okay? So anyway, I don't want to talk too much about this, but these are some of the guidelines. Next slide. Some people ask me quite a lot of questions about ketogenic, which is a popular trend right now, and intermittent fasting. For those of you who don't know, ketogenic just means that you basically eliminate carbohydrates from your diet, which is sugar, which is a form of carbohydrate, and you're burning fat for energy. There are benefits to that. Obviously, quick weight loss, but from what I've seen, it is good to do it with cycles. That means you don't do it forever. You will have cheat days where you go back to a more healthy diet with good carbs. Then you practice intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting just means that when you are not eating, of course, you can drink water, herbal tea, things like that. Your body has a chance to get rid of all the dysfunctional cells that you have. And this was discovered by a Japanese doctor who won a Nobel Prize. So if you Google autophagy, you will understand what is intermittent fasting. You can do it 5 days a week, or you can do it for 16 hours a day. You can start with 12 hours. Basically, you fast and you just take a lot of good water. You will straight away get a lot of benefit. You will actually fine-tune your immune system very much. All right, but do it carefully. If you have diabetes, low blood pressure, or hypertension, or things like that, you need to consult a proper dietitian, nutritionist, or your doctor. But usually, your doctor may not know these kind of things because doctors don't study nutrition so much, which is why everybody is researching for a drug or a vaccine, because those are the things that they know to treat. But for us, we are looking at something you can do to prevent, be part of the 95% and not percent. Okay? All right, next slide. Well, I will go through this very fast. Of course, we all know smoking is a big health risk. Now you're talking about a lung-related virus. It's even worse. A little bit of alcohol can be helpful for some people. Red wine obviously is a good choice because it has antioxidants. Good sleep is always necessary for any kind of health benefits, and physical activity. I don't want to call it exercise because people hear exercise, they get worried. So you can go on YouTube, you can Google me, and you'll find different kind of exercise that I talk about in terms of HIIT, in terms of trampoline, rebounding. You need to get your sweat out. And if you do it right, you only need to do 30 minutes because your immune system gets tuned. Remember, when you face a disease like this, what is the most important thing? The most important thing is to tune up your immune system. You don't want to go into an overactive immune system, then you get autoimmune, right? In fact, some of the drugs for COVID-19 suppresses your immune system. They need to bring it down, right? So what you want is you want a balanced, you want an immune system that is fine-tuned, but not to the extent that it's over, all right? Next slide. We talk about environment, of course, this is all proven. If you live in Okinawa or places like this where the air is fresh, you live longer. So you need sunlight until you feel pinkish. I do that, about 20, 30 minutes a day. Why? Because the sun activates about 3,000 over genes in your body. Vitamin D3 is critical, which is what sunlight provides you. Now, for people who work night shifts and don't face the sun, they actually get ill very easily. All right. EMF is a big, people talk about now, fake news about G5, Internet 5, and all that. There's a lot of research on both sides. Okay. The most important thing you must know is the Earth itself is a very big magnetic field. Okay. And when we create 5G, 4G, 3G, doesn't matter what G, we are disrupting the natural magnetic field. So if you go to somewhere where there's no buildings and no antennas, you get refreshed. If you walk barefoot in the park, in those places, you get refreshed. So basically, our body is tuned to a natural frequency also. It won't affect you today, it won't affect you tomorrow, but 20 years, 30 years, it's like you are in a big magnet that is wrong. So this is where you have all those problems. Our skin is, of course, our biggest organ. It absorbs a lot of stuff. If the air is dirty, it's going to absorb the dirty air. If you put a lot of chemicals, makeup, perfume, things like that, you're going to absorb that. So what you need to do is to make sure you get enough oxygenation. If you know about COVID-19 is, you will die because there's not enough oxygen getting into your body, right? You die from suffocation. So it's important that we get sufficient oxygen for our own immune system, right? If you go to YouTube, you can find me teaching people how to do deep breathing, something I call 478, made popular by a doctor called Dr. Will. So basically, you inhale 4, you hold for 7, and then you breathe out for 8. This is to ensure that you have maximum oxygenation. Of course, you want to do this in a place that has clean air. All right, next slide. Supplements is always controversial, right? Because a lot of people tell you that, why do you want to keep popping those pills and all that? Basically, supplements are not needed if you live a healthy life, you are perfectly balanced, your environment is clean, you have no stress, and you eat clean, nutritious, wholesome food every day. But in today's reality, all our foods, majority of it is industrialized. Basically, it's mass produced, right? Our environment is bad. We have too much stress, and of course, we're all aging. So, because of that, supplements have become a way of life. Unfortunately, most people choose the wrong one. They see thousands of products in the store, And the sales girl will tell you, she's not a nutritionist, she'll tell you this is good, that is good. And somebody told you, like, like today, oh, Dr. Jerry said vitamin D, C, everything is good. You go and you start buying one bottle each. And like most people, you probably pick the cheapest one, made in China, mass produced, chemical based. So you need to be smart about it, all right? You need to do some checking on the quality. And the only thing I can say is you need to avoid single synthesized supplement, because nature doesn't give us something by itself. I mean, do you find vitamin C growing in a tree where you can just pluck the peel and eat it? Do you find vitamin E growing on a tree in the sea? It doesn't work like that. When someone tells you that kiwi fruit or orange has a lot of vitamin C, yes, but together with the fruit, you're getting something called cofactors. What are cofactors? You have fiber, you have calcium, you have other things that make it work. For example, when you want more iron, you eat some red meat. But you know that iron absorption needs vitamin C? They work together as a pair. So what you want to do is take wholesome supplements that are food-based. Okay, that is very important. Okay, next slide. I've done a lot of work on seeds, as I mentioned. I think close to 10 years. Why? Because seeds are concentrated source of nutrients. One seed can grow into a big tree. So obviously you know how strong the seed is, right? It is also a complete nutrition package. You have oils, you have antioxidants, numerous properties. And I've done a lot of research on the black cumin seed, which I mentioned earlier. It's mentioned in the Bible, it's mentioned in the Quran. There are hundreds of studies, and you can Google. It has very important immune modulatory properties. So I'm talking about our immune system today, because you want to be the 95% and not the 5% that get the COVID, right? So your immune system needs to be fine-tuned. I mean, some of you, or many people I see, when their car makes a noise or steering is shaking, they'll send it to the mechanic very quickly. But they don't take care of themselves in that sense. They wait until they're very sick, then they go see a doctor and get some medicine. That's not the way to do it. You gotta take care of yourselves as good as you take care of your car, because this is the only life that you have. Okay, so be very careful with that. Next slide. Due to my work on the seeds, and there are many oils that come from seed, sesame seed oil, grape seed oil. So they are related. Why are seeds so powerful? It's because they do have oils. So just to show you how important it is, our human brain is 60% oil. Believe it or not, when we lose our memory or have mental problems, my mother used to tell me that, hey, your brain is drying up. And she's quite right, actually, because as we get older, we can't digest the oil, we can't break down the oil. So we lose the ability, right? Our skin, if you have nice, beautiful skin, lots of oil, it's good. But if you have dry skin, then you have a lack of oil. Hormones are made of oil. Cell membrane, every cell, single cell in your body is 65% oil across the membrane. And when we talk about membrane, it is so important because that's how the virus acts. It attaches itself to the ACE2, and then that's how it enters your cells. So when you breathe, every part of your body needs oxygen. Your toes need oxygen, your eyes need it. But the oxygen is in your lungs, right? So how does it get from your lungs to your legs, to your hands, to your liver? There's no pipe, there's no connection, there's no cable. So it has to cross membranes, like a relay. So if your membranes are not functioning, the oxygen doesn't get through. And that's all related to how our body works against virus as well. So All these doctors have done the research. Mark Muller is a friend of mine. He patented the blend of 2 special oils, including the black cumin oil. So we work together on this. Next slide. So I've come to my end. I want to say something. Basically, most of us, we do not value our health until sickness comes. So we all get excited now because there is a COVID-19 that's going around. So we get worried. We think about our health. Well, we have a lot of time to think about our health because we are home most of the time. But you should be thinking about your health. Okay, don't wait until sickness comes. It's as I mentioned earlier, it's like your car. You know, you want to drive until there's no more gasoline and then you go to the petrol station. No, you fill it up when it's almost empty, right? Or you go to the mechanic when it's due for an oil change. You may delay a little bit, but you do it. Do you wait until the car breaks down? But that's how we treat our body sometimes. Okay. And my last slide will be the next one. Oh, for some reason it overlapped. Actually, the word there is the future of health is prevention. Okay, the future of health is prevention. Okay, so thank you very much. I will entertain some questions if you have. I usually try to keep my talk, as short as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Chin. I mean, it's